The days after Maya's withdrawal felt unbearably long. Ayaan buried himself in work, but even in crowded boardrooms and bustling offices, her absence haunted him. He caught himself reaching for his phone, typing a message only to delete it. His chest carried a weight no contract or deal could lift. At night, the penthouse felt emptier than ever. He stared at the glittering skyline, the same view that once gave him pride. But now the city lights mocked him. They sparkled endlessly, yet none of them held the warmth of Maya's smile. One evening, after another hollow party filled with champagne and hollow laughter, Ayaan escaped to the balcony. The desert breeze brushed against his face as he whispered to himself, "What's the point of all this if I can't share it with her?" Memories came rushing back. Her laughter as she teased him about ice cream, her eyes lighting up while reading to children, the way she said, "I see you." Those moments had made him feel alive in ways luxury never had. She hadn't cared about his suits, his cars, or his fame. She cared about the man hidden behind it all. And that was when it struck him. For years, he had believed success meant building towers, collecting wealth, and surrounding himself with glittering things. But Maya's absence revealed a truth so clear it left him breathless. Love, respect, and sincerity were the only true luxuries. He thought back to the dinner party, the whispers of those women dripping with diamonds. They had mocked Maya's simplicity, but Ayaan realized now that her simplicity was her strength. While others wore masks, Maya was unafraid to be herself. While his world ran on pretense, hers ran on authenticity. And that was exactly what he craved.
Determined, he drove out of the city that weekend. Away from the skyscrapers and luxury hotels, he wandered through the quiet neighborhoods where Maya worked. He visited the library, empty now, and walked between the rows of books she loved so much. He imagined her voice reading aloud, her laughter echoing against the walls. He sat down in the same chair she often used and closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, the billionaire allowed himself to be vulnerable. He admitted the one truth he had denied for weeks. "I love her." Later that night, he opened his diary again. The same leather-bound book that once carried his loneliness now carried something different. He wrote, "I thought wealth was my crown and fame my throne, but none of it matters. Real wealth is the peace she brings me. Real prestige is the way she sees me, not the way the world does. If love is not at the center of my life, then all this gold is worthless." He closed the book, a sense of clarity washing over him. The next morning, instead of his usual board meeting, Ayaan attended one of Maya's charity projects uninvited. She was there, of course, surrounded by children, hair tied back, sleeves rolled up, working with her hands as if nothing else in the world mattered. Within days of Ayaan's appearance at Maya's charity project, photographs flooded social media. A billionaire in dusty clothes, kneeling beside children, holding hands with a woman far removed from his glittering world. The images went viral. Some praised him, others mocked him, but the harshest critics came from his own circle. The board summoned him for an emergency meeting. Gray suits filled the room, their voices sharp with disapproval. "This is reckless, Mr. Malik," one advisor snapped. "You are risking decades of reputation," another warned. "Investors are asking questions. They want stability, not this scandal." Ayaan clenched his jaw. "It's not a scandal. It's my life." But his words fell flat against the cold walls of profit and politics. Maya, meanwhile, bore her own battle. Her library was swarmed with reporters, their questions invasive, their cameras merciless. Parents of the children whispered about the headlines. Some volunteers pulled away, worried about the unwanted attention. One afternoon, a mother confronted her. "Are you using him, Maya? Is that why he comes here? To polish his image?" The accusation cut deep. Maya stammered a denial, but the doubt had already been planted. That night, she sat alone in her small apartment, staring at her reflection. "I don't belong in his world," she whispered to herself. "And now, I don't even belong in mine." The tension between them grew heavier. When Ayaan came to see her, she was distant. "This is ruining everything I've worked for," she confessed, her voice breaking. The children, the library my peace. I can't breathe with the world watching me like this. He reached for her hand, desperate. Then let me shield you from it. I'll handle the media, the board, the investors. Don't push me away. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. You don't understand, Ayaan. It's not just about you handling it. It's about me surviving it. For the first time, their bond felt fragile, like glass on the edge of breaking. Ayaan returned to his penthouse that night, restless. He stood before the massive window, staring at the empire he had built. He thought about the sacrifices he had made to reach here. Years of loneliness, endless compromises. And now, when love was finally within his grasp, was he willing to risk it all? Maya faced her own reflection, asking the same question in different words. Could she sacrifice her peace, her anonymity, the quiet life she loved, just to hold on to him? The next morning, the tabloids grew crueler. The charity girl and the billionaire, a temporary fantasy, blared across headlines. Investors threatened to withdraw funds. His advisors whispered ultimatums. It was a breaking point, and in that breaking point, both Ayaan and Maya realized this was the test. Love had given them joy, peace, and hope. But would it survive sacrifice? Neither of them had the answer yet, but the question hung in the air, heavy and inescapable. The pressure was suffocating. Investors threatened to walk away. Media vultures circled his every move. Even friends advised him to cut his losses and distance himself from Maya. But Ayaan Malik had made his choice. For once in his life, he wouldn't bend to power, politics, or money. He would bend only to love. The opportunity came at the Global Business Summit, an event broadcast live across the Middle East. Ayaan was the keynote speaker, expected to deliver his usual polished words about markets and investments. The ballroom was packed with diplomats, billionaires, and the press. Cameras flashed, but when Ayaan walked on stage, something in his demeanor was different. His usual confidence was there, but beneath it burned something fiercer, determination. He began formally, as expected, but halfway through his speech, he paused. The room fell silent. For years, he said slowly, I believe success was measured by towers built, deals signed, fortunes earned. But today, I stand before you knowing I was wrong. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. Success, Ayaan continued, is meaningless without love. Wealth without peace is poverty. And a life lived for appearances is no life at all. He let the silence settle before going on. There is someone, a woman who has reminded me of this truth. She doesn't come from this world of glitter and marble. She doesn't crave the spotlight. But she sees me, not my title, and I love her. Fiercely, unapologetically, and forever. Gasps filled the hall. Journalists leaned forward, pens scratching furiously. Investors exchanged nervous glances. But Ayaan didn't flinch. So let the world write its headlines. Let the markets gossip. I will not apologize for choosing love over fear. And if that costs me everything I have built, then so be it. Because without her, none of this matters. The speech went viral within hours. Clips spread across every platform. Some called him foolish, reckless. Others hailed him brave, a man who had chosen heart over empire. But only one reaction mattered. Maya was at the library when she saw the video. The children huddled around her phone, giggling at the sight of Mr. Malik on stage. She sat frozen, heart pounding, as his words washed over her. I love her. Fiercely, unapologetically, and forever. Her throat tightened. Tears blurred her vision. All this time, she had doubted whether he could withstand the weight of their two worlds colliding. And yet here he was, standing against that weight for her. When she closed her eyes, she realized the truth she had been too afraid to face. She loved him too. She had loved him from the moment he confessed his loneliness, from the moment he laughed over melted ice cream, from the moment he whispered, I see you. That evening, Ayaan waited outside the library. Not in his usual limousine, but in a simple car. No cameras, no bodyguards, just him. When Maya stepped out, their eyes met. For a long moment, the world fell away. She walked toward him slowly, her heart in her throat. That speech, she whispered. He smiled faintly. It wasn't a speech. It was the truth. Her voice trembled. Do you know what you've risked? Yes, he said firmly, taking her hands. But do you know what I've gained? She blinked. What? You. And for the first time, Maya didn't argue, didn't pull away. Instead, she let her tears fall freely as she whispered the words that had waited so long in her heart. I love you too, Ayaan. The world still judged. The noise hadn't stopped. But as he held her in his arms, Ayaan realized that love, true love, was worth every sacrifice. The weeks after Ayaan's public declaration were turbulent, but different this time. The noise hadn't disappeared, but its tone had shifted. Where once there had been scorn, now there was curiosity. Where there had been judgment, now there was debate. Some called Maya a modern-day Cinderella. Others argued she wasn't fit to stand beside a man of Ayaan's stature. But amid all the chatter, one truth began to shine. Neither of them wavered. Maya, once overwhelmed by the cameras, began to hold her ground. At first, it was difficult. Reporters still crowded the library, microphones shoved toward her. But instead of shrinking away, she answered with quiet strength. I am not here because of his wealth, she told them calmly. I am here because I love the man he is when no one else is watching. The clip spread across social media. For the first time, it wasn't just Ayaan fighting for her. Maya was fighting for them too. At Ayaan's company, the boardroom battles continued. But when quarterly reports showed profits rising despite the scandal, critics had little to argue with. Investors valued results, and Ayaan delivered them as always. Eventually, even the most skeptical voices softened. One advisor finally said, if this woman gives you focus, then perhaps she's not a weakness. Perhaps she's your strength. Ayaan didn't reply with words. He only smiled because he had known that from the very beginning. Their love began to ripple outward. Together, they launched literacy programs for underprivileged children, blending Maya's passion with Ayaan's resources. Instead of mocking headlines, newspapers now carried stories of change. Billionaire and beloved build bridges through books. The children adored them both. One little girl once tugged Maya's sleeve and whispered, "You're like a princess." Maya laughed, glancing at Ayaan, who only winked. For the first time, she didn't feel out of place in his world. One evening, as they stood together overlooking the city skyline, Maya spoke softly. "Do you realize what's happening?" He wrapped an arm around her waist. "What's that?" "They're beginning to accept us." He looked at her, his eyes warm. "I don't need them to. I only need you." She smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "I know, but maybe, just maybe, love really can change the world a little." For a man who once lived in a golden cage, and a woman who once believed she was too ordinary, their love had done the impossible. It had silenced doubt. It had conquered fear. It had begun to heal the space between two very different worlds. And together, Ayaan and Maya realized, love wasn't just about surviving society. It was about rewriting the rules entirely. The city lights sparkled beneath them like a million stars. But tonight, Ayaan Malik wasn't thinking about skyscrapers, markets, or power. His world, the real world, was standing beside him, her hand entwined with his. Maya. Months had passed since the storm began, and though life had not grown silent, it had grown steadier. The media still wrote stories, but they no longer pierced like arrows. The board still whispered, but they no longer held chains around his heart. Together, he and Maya had carved a space where love could breathe. The night of their engagement was nothing like the glittering galas Ayaan had once hosted. Instead, it was held in the heart of Maya's library, the place where their story truly began. Shelves of books stood witness, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, and the laughter of children filling the air. Ayaan knelt, not on marble, but on the warm wooden floor, and held out a simple ring. "I've built towers, but I want to build a life with you," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion. Not as Ayaan Malik, the billionaire, but as Ayaan, the man who found himself when he found you. Maya's eyes shimmered. She had imagined 1,000 ways he might ask, but this sincerity, this humility, was more precious than diamonds. Yes, she whispered, her voice trembling. 1,000 times yes. The children cheered, clapping wildly. For them, it was a fairy tale unfolding before their eyes. For Ayaan and Maya, it was the beginning of a forever they had both once thought impossible. Their wedding was small, intimate, not a performance for society, but a promise for themselves. Ayaan stood in a tailored suit, Maya in an elegant dress of soft ivory. No tiaras, no paparazzi, only close friends, family, and the children whose lives they had touched. When they exchanged vows, Maya's words were simple but powerful. You taught me that love isn't about fitting into a world. It's about building a world together. And with you, Ayaan, I am home. And his vow, spoken with unwavering conviction, sealed their bond. You are not my weakness. You are my strength, my wealth, my forever. Years later, people still told their story. The billionaire who chose the librarian, the worlds that clashed and then blended, the love that defied doubt. But to Ayaan and Maya, it was never about defiance. It was about peace. It was about partnership. It was about waking each day and choosing each other again and again. On quiet evenings, they would walk hand in hand through the city streets, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. And when Maya asked him once, "Do you regret anything?" Ayaan only smiled, only that I didn't find you sooner. The skyline still glittered. The empire still stood. But for Ayaan, true wealth was no longer measured in towers or accounts. It was measured in laughter shared, in children's voices echoing through the library, in the warmth of Maya's hand in his. Their love wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect, but it was timeless. And in the story of their lives, written not in headlines, but in hearts, Ayaan and Maya would remain forever. Not a king and a librarian, not a billionaire and an outsider, but two souls who had found home in each other.